Hello, legends, and welcome to Blunt Force Healing podcast and blog. This project is still ongoing daily and it's standing hard, and this episode is number 306. Yes, 306 days from the day it started in September 2022, exactly 19th of September, and I didn't stop and wrote a blog post every single day, as well as I recorded the audio for the podcast. Obviously, if you're watching at the moment on Spotify video or on YouTube, video updates came much later. This is update 84, I believe. So you can compare and see that 306 versus 84 is a huge discrepancy, but yeah, this blog and podcast evolved from a very start, and you can see how much it evolved if you go back to the very first episodes. Obviously, on YouTube, you will see only first video episodes, but if you go ahead to Spotify or Apple or Google Podcast, any of those major platforms, and search for Blunt Force Healing, you can go as far as the first episode and you can see how cringe it was. Also, the blog, the first blog posts, first couple of days and weeks, they were very simple blog posts because the whole idea of this project was to just start, just take action. It's quite cliche saying, but this is exactly what is necessary to achieve anything. Albeit I am yet to achieve anything of essence here. I'm definitely getting better and more confident in speaking in front of camera. I'm definitely faster and more efficient in writing and doing meta admin tasks around publishing the blog and the episodes. So that's some improvement definitely. But from the perspective of a blog, although I'm delivering some value in certain posts, it's a journal and it was mostly my daily updates. Just recently, I started delving a little bit more into some aspects of life psychology and areas of my interest, like activities, child development, you know, cybersecurity and things like that, and then kind of shifting those daily updates about my life to the very end because, you know, of course, there are some people interested in that, but most of you probably don't really care about what happened uh, during my day unless it was something very interesting or entertaining. So, but if you do, it's not going anywhere. I will be updating on those things, but just closer to the end of the video episode or the audio episode. And yesterday it was a very short video and very short blog post, mainly because I returned quite late from an interesting trip. So, what happened yesterday is that after work, my wife was prepping the dinner because we kind of take turns who is preparing the dinner. And I wanted to use that opportunity to move a bit because I like activity. I try to walk every day at least, then run a little bit, and recently kind of revived the bicycles and decided to take a spin from time to time. And I had that, you know, desire to get on the saddle and ride somewhere. But it was quite late. I knew that I have roughly about 2 hours or 2.5 hours maybe to the sunset until it gets dark. So I started planning where I could go, and eventually I found a loop that was about 50 kilometers. So I would say in miles it's probably about 30, between 30-35 miles. And it's a decent loop, but I was afraid that I might not make it within the time. And when it gets dark, sorry, and I have, even if I have proper lighting to be visible for others, it's not a lighting or the lighting that is enough to give me confidence that I will see the road and react properly to anything that might come on the road or something that I might see last minute. So I wanted to make sure that I get before the darkness falls. So eventually I decided to get to a single point, so A to B and back the same way, which will make it slightly easier. And as a target, I've put one area that I targeted. I marked on my Google Maps for quite a while and wanted to visit it, but never had a chance. And I assessed that this is roughly about 14, maybe 15 kilometers forth and back, so about 30 kilometers overall, which is doable. And at the same time, I will see that point of interest. And the point of his interest was Disert Graveyard. And Disert is it's not a desert or desert, it's Disert, which is the area near Bluestack Mountains, about 10-12 kilometers from Donegal town, that has some heritage importance. And there's a Disert Graveyard, which is a heritage area that recently started being on the map and recognized more often, got the funding to get it renewed. And I knew that this is a well-marked area, and it's part of the Bluestack Way, which is kind of trail for hikers and visitors. But I also knew it's kind of remote, so I was hoping that I will find a decent place. So one thing that I assessed wrong was definitely the fact that I forgot completely that I will be going towards Bluestack Mountains. And for some reason in my head, I completely forgot that it will be pretty much constant ascent. So I will be going uphill almost all the time. Obviously it's ups and downs, but in general the elevation will be, I will be only gaining elevation rather than going up, down, and then just flat or things like that. So the beginning was very tough, although I kind of circled Donegal around the riverbank walk and then stopped in Circle K gas station just to take a sip of coffee to warm me up and get a little bit of that caffeine for the ride. And I went on. So it was a tough uphill most of the time, and rain started drizzling a little bit here and there, but I don't mind rain if the temperature is okay, and temperature was fine. And at some stage I didn't take the right turn. I kept going with the main road towards Frosses, which is another village, and I stopped to take pictures of two nice black horses, and I was so much interested in me that I actually titled yesterday's post as "Horses are carnivores too." It's a bit of clickbait, but technically they were like trying to eat me. They started actually biting my forearm and then my shoulder. So it was an interesting experience because they started in being kind of interested, then a little bit shy, but after kind of tasting my shirt, they started kind of going a bit deeper, and I wasn't afraid that they will eat me. Of course, it's a joke, but those small bites kind of testing my softness, I guess, on my body, uh, were on the verge of being slightly hurting. So I decided, listen, guys, my plan is not to get eaten today. So beautiful horses, very nice, but I needed to go. And when I checked the map, I realized that I actually took the wrong turn, so I need to get back on track. So I added a little bit, not much, but a little bit, and had to come back to the road, which lengthened slightly the whole approach to Desert Graveyard. And while going further, I started feeling something itchy on my nose, so I stopped and kind of checked what is on my nose. And I took like a small, like the whole grain mustard is like a black seed, mustard seed, off my nose, and I'm like, where did it come from? Maybe it fell off some tree or something like that. But on the closer look, I realized it had a very microscopic kind of like almost legs, and then I realized it's a tick, and I was very puzzled by a tick landing on my nose while there was no real reason for it land there. And it hit me that ticks like to feed on horses. And while I was petting the both horses, it must have been that they rubbed against me and they might have left tick on my shirt. Or the tick basically just traveled across my shirt and eventually either through my helmet or kind of on my face where I didn't feel it, but when it started trying to bite into the skin, I started feeling itchy, and that's how I found it. And why the fact that it was like a mustard seed, it means it was bloated fully, so it was full of blood, probably horse blood, and that's a dangerous thing if that blood spills or transfers in any way to either open a wound or areas like delicate and sensitive areas where it's easy to transfer, and diseases like the mouth area, the nose or the eyes. So to be on the safe side, I know that I had many ticks in my life, and I mean many hundreds of ticks in my lifetime. Even recently, we took about I think I took about 27 on just single walk off me, of which about 8, I think, or 9 nymph stage ticks were latched to my thigh even after returning home. So I'm not that concerned because I know that I had so many ticks in my life that it is very rare to get the disease from them, but it's a lottery anyway. So while I was lucky thousands of times, I might be unlucky that single time and still get the disease, even though I was very kind of cautious. So that's unfortunate with Lyme disease and tick-borne encephalitis. So and other kind of pathogens that they can carry. So it's always better to take the tick before it bites into you, because there's pretty much zero chance that it will transfer anything to you unless you kind of pop it or scratch it into your wound or your skin. That's a different story, but in general, if you take it while it's crawling, you're safe. You just need to kill it, preferably, or kind of throw it away. I prefer to kill them. I just use it a nail to nail, so because they're hard surfaces, nails, and tick basically pops. And in most cases, when it's flat, it's kind of satisfying sound when you squeeze it and it just ticks, basically. But if it's bloated, you need to be careful because it might sprinkle that blood might land somewhere where you don't want it to be. Anyway, I got rid of it. I couldn't wash my hands because there was nothing around, but the grass was wet, so I kind of used the leaves and grass to make sure that I kind of get them wet and washed as much as I can, or wiped, and continued my ride. And when I reached the Desert Graveyard, I realized how beautiful and scenic that place is. It was eerie, but at the same time, it was kind of that majestic mountains, especially I think it's called Carnarvon Peak, overlooking the area, is an amazing view. The sky was clearing a bit, so I didn't have any drizzle at the time when I arrived, and there was like a bit of forest, a nice stream or kind of river flowing by, and there is also a soccer pitch there of Letterbarrow Football Club, which is an amazing place to get training on. I would probably sign up just to train in that area. It's so calm and quiet. There's just a couple of houses scattered around the area, and it's very kind of hilly and shaped by the glaciers. Uh, so it's really an amazing place to be, and that graveyard is quite well hidden. It's only accessible by foot, so it's for pilgrims and hikers and walkers. So I needed to lift my bike and kind of go through the two gates with the bike, and the grass was very wet because it's more like meadows where the sheep are kind of grazing. So I got my socks wet pretty quickly, but got to the mound of the first kind of the altar, and I couldn't explore enough because when I reached it, left the bike on the side of the mound and kind of walked around to take the picture of the altar and just kind of check the area. It was already the sunset time, so I was very late at the site and still had 30 to 40 minutes way back at least. So I was quite concerned. I recorded a quick video which is on YouTube as well. So if you look, yesterday's update is from the field, so I did it outdoors. You can watch it. It's probably 5 minutes long, so not that long. And yeah, and I just jumped on the bike and got back. Had to carry that bike twice again through the gates, and the good thing was that I knew the way back fairly well now as I was returning, and also, you know, the main work was done while I was going uphill towards the Desert Graveyard. So while there were a couple of uphills on the way back, generally I was going downhill, and about halfway between Desert and Donegal town, it started being pretty much only downhill with some flat moments. So I sped up and got much quicker on the way back, which was nice. But still, I arrived around I think 22:35, so 10:35 or 10:40 in Donegal town. And when I locked my bike in the shed and undressed and got kind of ready, it was already 11 o'clock, so I had to upload everything and write the blog post, so it was quite late. That's why it was short. In turn, this one is quite long already. It's 20 minutes. I'll stop boring you. I have my post ready and written, so if you want to read it, the address will be in the description of the podcast. And as usual, thank you very much for coming and listening to my rambling and updates. Today it was dull and full of work-related tasks, so nothing happened. The weather is miserable. It's raining all day long, so not much to update today. We didn't even do any walk ourselves. We are hoping to get opportunity and use the morning time when it's usually still not raining yet, in the morning hours, where we can complete the walk tomorrow and see how the weather develops. But I'll try to make something worth mentioning and talking about for tomorrow's blog and podcast episode. So once again, thank you very much for your time. I appreciate every person that watches that or listens to this project or reads the blog or does all of that. I'm not sure if there are people that actually read and listen, but if they do, you're double legends. Thank you very much. I appreciate you and your time. Please stay with me and come back for more. Have a great rest of the day, afternoon, or evening, wherever you are, and stay tuned for tomorrow.